So this is a picture of this tremendous, tremendous sefer put out by the Tivikubanos on the Sharkubanos. We're going to learn Kriya Shema now. So if you've been listening to any other shiurim, because I'm doing them one after another right now in the position, and I got a few minutes. So you see that all of these things, as you keep going around them, they all tie together. So it's not like this is divorced from that and it's completely different. There are jillions of ideas and different ways of looking at everything. But basically, the pattern that we're seeing here all ties together in all of the Kavanos. So we're learning some basic sod, and now we're coming to the end of the third Drush in Shar Kavanos, the Indian of Kriya Shema. Let me get this moved around a little bit, and we'll get it up so that we can actually see the page better. It's a big page. So let's move it up some more. There we go. Okay, so we're going to be learning down here in the Tivikubanos on number Nun Aleph. He says like this, Harav Bir Lanu, and we're at the end of the third Drush. The Rav has really explained to Shnei Mini Chivukim Sheish Ba'arba Mini Kriya Shema Shekorim B'Kol Yom. So every day we say this Kriya Shema 4 times. And he's gone through different kinds of differences between them. Achida Karishan Shebenechus, the first difference between them is how exactly and are wrapped the mochin that are coming into Zer Anpin and how they flow down. So he says, he adds the nook as well, she'enim shavin, they're not the same. V'husha b'kriya shema de karbanos, and now we're making a little review. The first time you say kriya shema, ma'amshichan the mochin the Zer Anpin v'nook b'penimius erik anpin. We're bringing this wrapped in the penimius of the erik anpin. Remember, the tipa is the tipa of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. It's a tipa of nothingness. And nothingness is very beautiful, very powerful. We have no way to understand it. The only way we can understand it is by the lavush, by what clothes it. This is a lavush which we said before is very transparent. And this is a very thin lavush, almost nothing itself. So this Kriya Shema, though, is coming from the penimius of Erik Anpin. That's a little bit thicker than comes from the Chitzonius of Atik Yomim, which he's going to say now. So Kriya Shema the Yotzer, that's the highest level. Mamshich and the Mochin is there Anpin Benuk Mechitzonius Atik, it comes from the outside of Atik. The Kriya Shema Ba'arvis, Mamshich and the Mochin is there Benuk Mechitzonius Erik Anpin, then it comes at a lower level, that's at Marav time, for the Chitzonius of Erik Anpin. The Kriya Shema Shalamita is going to be the lowest level, in other words, the thickest wrapping. Mamshich and the Mochin is there Anpin Benuk Mechitzonius Avima. Now, number Nud base, he says, so the second difference is, so he says there are different Yekudim that take place between Zach and Nok, and they're not all the same. Let's talk about that one. The Kriya Shema the Yotzer and the daytime, these are the two daytime Kriya Shemas. Nimshchu mizerev shnei zivugis zav and nuk. There are two different zivugim that takes place for Zachav and Nuk. V'huich b'tefillah shakris azivug hu Yaakov in Rachel, because in the ultimate one where he says Yotzer, that Yikud is taking place between Yaakov and Rachel. Rachel being the Akeres of bias, this is where you really want the Yikud to take place because that's the bottom line. But there are still mochin left over. And in that case, you make another yichud, but defeatus a mincha, v'hu zivug Yisrael in Leah. And this is a Yisrael between Yisrael in Leah. What I know about Yisrael is that he's from the Chaz Lamala, just like Leah is, but he's on the front and Leah is on the back. Now, the details of this, I don't have to tell you, because I'm still looking for them myself. That is where, why, what does it produce, this yichud that takes place at Mincha. But that's the point. It's not the same yichud. It's not the yichud of Rachel and Yaakov. It's the yichud of Yisrael, which is the upper part of Zer Anpin on the outside of above Yaakov. Let's say that's my thinking with Leah. So he said, "Kriya Shema Shala Arvis." Now, when you come from Arvis, Nipshku Azibuk the Zer Anpin V'Nuk, then the yichud that's coming is coming to the Zachar B'Nuk B'Tefilus Amida. It's once again a yichud of Yaakov and Leah. It's weaker. Lamala min the chaza up above the chaza. Kriya Shemash Alamita, that one, Nimshku Zivuk Dezer Anpin Denuk, Yaakov Alea, Lamata. So the first one that is outside of the Yichud of Yaakov and Rachel, which is she is the Keres Apais, it's the ultimate Yichud that takes place at Shabbos. All the rest are Yichudim with some aspect of Zer Anpin, either Yaakov or Yisrael, with Leah. Now, exactly how that works, like I said before, I'm looking for the answer to it, and I'm trying to find it. I know little bits and pieces, and that's why we keep learning, because I want to find out what these words refer to. All the way through the study of Kabbalah, like I've said in regards to Rebbe Shimon, that's where it starts. Rebbe Shimon, and not in a disparaging way, it's like a name dropper, because he'll bring in certain words, and what are they doing here? What does it mean? Well, it's up to us to find out. That's what it's always about. That's the pursuit in this inner space that we're looking to the light of Hashem. Now we're going into the fourth Drush, and I don't know if I'm prepared for this, but last time I learned this was in 1916. That's 6 years ago. So let's see what he says. Is Shar Kavanos? We're on the Kriat Shemah. It says Drush Dal. He says, Drush Revi Be'inyan Dalet Yehudi Kriat Shema Nizkarim B'Yosef says. Now we're going to get into it even more. You thought that we're talking about deep things. You're going to get deeper. He says, Be'inyan Arba Mini Yehudi Kriat Shema Nizka Le'el. Now it's talking about the fact that there are 4 different Yehudim. Od Yesh Chiluk Shalishi, but there's another thing to start thinking about. Be'inyan Arba Kriat Shema in regards to those 4 Kriat Shemas. V'huki halo bi'arnu be'inyan Kriat Shema shal yotzer, because we explain like this. In the Kriat Shema shal yotzer, ki zer anpin yesh lo mochin the Katnos begad v'degad. So in regards to that, zer anpin has mochin the Katnos and Gadlus, but b'chinas mochin the Katnos yesh bo mochin penimim and mekifim. So let's start looking at this now. We got new words that we're bringing in. In regards to the mochin and Katnos that come into Zer Anpin, there were 2 different kinds of mochin. They're penimin and makifim. Is the mochin the Gadlus, the same thing with the mochins of Gadlus. There's going to be an or penimi within it, and an or makif. Now let's try to. I'm going to go through the tip, but I just thinking. My thinking is like this: that we're actually not talking about when we say makifim and penimim. We're talking about oros. So oros really is the hidden energy inside the moach. So this we can see from the Kol Sama. I've talked about this in other lectures in regards to exactly how the light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu is wrapped in other lights. And so let's see how this goes, and let's look at number Aleph here as we are moving along, and that we're in the Tivuk Avanos. It says La'el v'Drush HaKodim, up previously, in the previous Drush, he says, Bir Rav Shnei Chilukim Be'inyan Arba Mini Kriat Shema. He said that he had explained that there were 2 different kinds of Chilukim between the 4 different Kriat Shemas. I think there should be a period there, so I'm going to put one in for myself. Halik Rishon Hu Be'inyan Hamshachas and Mochin Dezer Anpin V'Nuk. So the first one is the Hamshacha, that is the streaming into Zachar V'Nuk, Mochin. And the second one is that they're going to produce a yichud for Zer Anpin in the Nuk, and Nimshachim Mehem, that is coming out from them. So Chava'ata Mivar Lanu Harav Od Chiluk Hashayach Be'inyan Arba Mini Kriat Shema. So now I'm going to talk to you about something else, which is really pertains to these 4 different types of Kriat Shema. So he says, Hazad Sarech L'Kabel L'Mochim Shalom Ma'aba Be'ima Zah has to receive his mochim from Abba Ve'ima. But let me just 1 second here. Ve'ima. V'hamochim heim nefesh ruach neshama chayyu yechida. Now, this is what I call oros. But he wants to say that benimi to the mochim are these oros. The names of the oros from the bottom to the top are nefesh, ruach, chayyu, and yechida, which we pronounce the ranchi. So the nefesh ruach is always a concept of the lower element. In other words, they're more physical. So what is nefesh? Nefesh is that life force that keeps us alive. What's ruach? That's a quality of it, which is even deeper, which has a spirit involved with it as well. The ruach, so he's never crime katnos. But on the Shemah now, this is already a concept of benemius. So this which is also called in the Rishash, the Nechi, the Neshama, the Chaya, and the Yechida are much higher lives, much greater lives. They're Laoros of Gadlus. So let's go on, and we said number Gimel. So he said, "Hey, mamochin the Katnos and Nikraim nefesh ruach." So understand that, in relatively speaking, to all of the qualities within the mochin, the Katnos would be considered to be nefesh ruach. Ve'hein amochin the Gadlus and Nikraim the Shemah and Yechida, which is let's go back to nefesh and ruach. Another word for these would be ran, right? L'chul neranano. Remember that one? Okay, so when we're talking about rina, we're talking about nefesh and ruach being enlivening. That's a really great picture of the penemius of ruach, what it means is to enliven us. V'heim hamochin the Gadlus and Nikraim nachi, which is also neshama chai yechida. So you have these two sets of mochin. He wants to talk about this. Yesh b'kol echad mechem mochin penimin and mochin makifim. But the way that you have in each one of those oros, there were aspects of them that were penimi, called, or what he calls them mochin penimi, or mochin makifim. Now understand that for me, just right now, I want to call them oros. But he's calling them mochin, fine. So the mochin are penimi and the mochin are makifim. The mochin penimi nikroim tzadi tzalim. Now we're getting into the concept of the tzalim. The concept of the tzadi tzalim, which would be the weakest form of the light. That's the form of the light that goes into Zeir Anpin. They're the other two levels of the letters of the word tzalim. So we sound like this, well, like this. And Zah, he has mochin the Katnos, which are part of the tzalim. Mochin the tzalim, the Gadlus. And there's also mochin the tzalim, which represent Gadlus. Let's go over here now to number Dalet. Let's see how we can get through this. Shemah Marno, so over there, when we're talking about that, let me get it down, we can see it, there we go. Shemah Marno, over there, we said, Kibakal Kriya Shema Me'edel Ha'arba, every time that we say Kriya Shema of one of these four different mochin, Neknasa Bizah, or the four different mochin go into Zah, Sheish Kitzvos, the mochin Penimi, the Gadlus, the Mitzad Ima, so there are 6 mochin. I don't know what he means. Which are penimium, the Gadlus, mitzvah b'tzad ima, the efshir shikansu elo ad shikansu kol ma shalomata b'bedragas. So now how he counted out 6, I'm not sure, but he says, let me read the words again. Niknasi b'zav sheish kitzvos, the vok, the Zeir Anpin of the mochin penimium, the Gadlus, the b'tzad ima, they come in there. The efshir shikansu elo, but the mochin of Gadlus is Zeir Anpin, and I know what he's talking about. He's talking about what comes actually into Zeir Anpin, which is Gadlus, is really, he calls it the vok, or the tzat of the mochin of Ima. That's all that comes in. The Chabad does not come in. So just the zat, but they are mochin to Gadlus. Be efshir yikansu ela, they can't come in. Ad yikansu kol ma shalamatim b'dragasim, until all the lower ones have come in. V'heim call the mochin the Katnos, the benimim and makifim, and these are all the mochins of Katnos, calling the mochin the machin of benimim and the makifim mitzad Abba and mitzad Ima. They come from the side of Abba, they come from the side of Ima. V'achar kach, and then after that, niknasim shisha kitzvos of benimim the mitzad Ima, then come in the 6 kitzvos of benimim the mitzad Ima. Now let's read the Tiv Kabbanos, as I'm getting a little lost over here, just to see exactly what he's talking about. So we're going to start over here on number Dalet. See if we can get it down lower just for this. And read what the Tiv says. So he said, V'zeh shavim kol arba mini kriya shema. And this one thing, all the different types of kriya shema are the same. Now we're going to examine the mechanism of the kriya shema. Shebechem, Mekabel Hazah Sheish Kitzvos, the Mokim Penimium, the Gadlus, the B'tzad Ima. So what happens in all of the Kriya Shema? He gets the bottom 6 spheros. I think that Malchus is included in it. I call it the Zat, he calls it the Vok. Then the one Zat means the Zayin Tachtoinos, and the Vav means the Vav Kitzvahs. It's the same thing, more or less. So he said, the Mochin Benimi, the Gadlus, the B'tzad Ima. So that's what Zav receives. Now, what is this? Pirish Shahat Tzadik Mischalek, the Tesha Prakim Keneged, and that's a Chod Yisod. So he said, now, going back, he said, we have the concept of, for those of you who have listened to other shir and been through this, of I keep blanking on this phrase, of the tzelem. Now, tzelem in regular Kriat translation in English means shade, but that's not what this is. It's actually three parts. One part is called the tzadi tzelem, one part is called the lama tzelem, and the other part is called the mem tzelem. The tzadi tzelem is an aspect which is panimi, which is a concept of the ore that goes inside the zeranpin. The lama tzelem is a light which is too strong to go in. It may go in a bit, but then it comes back out because it's too strong. This is called the lama tzelem, and then the mem tzelem is going to be even further out and a much greater light shining on zeranpin from the outside. So what happens to the tzadi tzelem? It gets divided up, and it goes into this 9 spheres of zeranpin, which is coming from Chabad 9. So therefore it's called the tzadi. Why? Because tzadi is the number 9, if you reduce it. So therefore every spherot is going to 9 spheros. So therefore all of them will be incorporated in this concept 9 times 10. So now we got the Kriya Shema. Mekabel l'zecha v'rak sheish prakim. It only receives 6 prakim. Shal hanetzach hod yisod the ima that comes from the nai of ima. Shehem pirkei hatachtonim shal hanetzach hod yisod the ima. So what are they? They're the lower joints. They're going to go into the lower joints of the body of Zeranpin, which are his netzach hod yisod, his 9. He says, O pirkei emsoim, and also the middle section of mochis. Because remember, you're only getting 6. That's why he settled on Vav. You're only getting 6. Emsoim shal netzach hod yisod the ima v'hem shisha shlishim. So that makes 6 thirds. In other words, you have mochim for the zat of Zeranpin, which are 6. Of the mochim that are coming in of Gadlus that are coming into Zeranpin, which are 6, are going to say that is the 6 lower mochim of ima, going into 6 places in Zeranpin, which are called the Chagad 9. About Pirkei al Yonim shall the netzach hod yisod, but the upper parts of this netzach hod yisod of Zeranpin of ima, shehem shlosha shlisha al Yonim shall the netzach hod yisod the ima, which are the upper third of the netzach hod yisod of Zima. The sha'arim medayim mekifim that remain over the head of Zeranpin. Al rosha shall anpin the ender niknasim bo, and they don't go into Zeranpin, not at this point. So what we're doing, and we're understanding the Kriya Shema, is you're bringing mochin into Zeranpin. Which mochin are you bringing into Zeranpin? From the lower 2/3 of the mochin that Ima has to be able to give to Zeranpin. The after sheyikanso b'zechal shisha kitzvos the Gadlus the Ima, it's only possible for the mochin to come into the 6 kitzvos of Zeranpin. Ad sheyikanso kodem, until they come in, but it has to be previously came in, called the mochin the Katnos. So that means that the Katnos has also, it has a Chochmah, Chesed the Das, Gevurah the Das, they're going from right to left, and Bina. So Katnos has that, and so does Gadlus. So he said, "V'keven shehim the matach of the medregas of mochin the Gadlus," and since they're the lowest element, remember everything has to start at the bottom. V'heim call the mochin the Katnos, they're all the mochin the Katnos, the hainu tzelem shalem the Katnos the ima. The tzelem shalem the Katnos the abba, and also the tzelem which was complete of the Katnos the abba. V'acher sheyesh lo kuvar kol mochin the Katnos, and so now that you have all of the mochin the Katnos came in, hapanimium hakifim, you have both the panimium and the makifim of Katnos, the abba v'ima that is coming oz niknitisu paul shishu kitzvos the Gadlus the ima the bad. Then comes in only the shisha kitzvos the Gadlus of ima, only she, not from abba. So exactly where we're going here and how this is going, we'll see. That's the shir today in the Kriya Shema. We're learning along as best God gives us this blessing. Thank you, Baruch Flesh.